Welcome to the world of Phantasmagoria. This is going to be the world for my West Marches game. In this video, I have a lot to go over. What we're going to start with is why I'm naming my world Phantasmagoria. I'm also going to respond to questions that were posted on the original video just to give some more clarification. I've decided my rule system will be Shadow Dark for the first game, and we're also going to go over the recent release for the West Marches campaign style guidebook. Have a lot to get into, so let's get started. Welcome to Solitary RPG. Let's start out with why I decided to name my world Phantasmagoria. And basically, it works. When I was doing some name generation and looking at different names for my world, I jumped online, looked up a thesaurus for words for collections and groups and different simple words that wouldn't make for a good name, and just kind of went down a rabbit hole. And in my research, I came across this word, and I was like, that is the perfect word to describe my world. Phantasmagoria, the meaning, a constantly shifting, complex succession of things seen or imagined. A sequence of real or imaginary items that those seen in a dream. A bizarre or fantastic combination, collection, or assemblage. So looking at the definition of the word and what I'm trying to accomplish in the game really just made sense. So I'm going to use that name for my world. That's out of the way. First project done. I named my world. The next thing, real quickly, I want to talk about is my map. So when I initially started this concept in my mind, I was going to get a actual like world map to use. And in the process of looking at world maps, that map would be huge to provide me the details that I wanted for tracking my game. So what I'm going to end up having to do is use smaller maps for different continents in the world. I'm not going to be able to use one big world map. It would just be too big. So I found this map at an antique event that my wife and I went to. It's just a reprint or a recreation of an older style map. Yeah, there's really no year on this map as far as like where the inspiration came from. I think it's still a modern map, just kind of done in an older style. But like, I'm going to start in Arizona, and it has a lot of the detailed information that I need to get started. It's not over detailed, it's not showing me modern roads or anything like that. It's really just showing me like rivers and main points of interest for each one of the states, which is fantastic. I can really make this work for me. So that is what you're going to probably end up seeing. I'm probably going to spend a lot more of my time in the United States, but I do have some ideas for some other different continents and what I want to do there. I just need to find maps that I can use. That resolves some of my challenges that I was having, and I am happy with that. Let's jump into some questions that came up on the YouTube channel, and I want to respond to those questions. I have them all written down here. This is going to be just my general notebook for this game, and I will also be keeping a separate journal for the lore masters. But let me answer some questions that came up. I will do my best to read the names of the YouTubers that responded, but everybody comes up with really unique YouTube names, and some of these I'm probably going to butcher. So please don't hold it against me if I butcher your name. I'm sorry. I'm not doing it on purpose. And the first one's going to be one of those. Carvernucleus. I'm sorry. I don't know what you're trying to get across with your YouTube name, but uh, called Persistent Worlds. This commenter was talking about how they are already doing a similar thing, but they are calling theirs Persistent World, which I think is fantastic. Just using a simple name, and this is where I drew a little inspiration for naming my world, is I didn't need to come up with some fancy, cool name that people are going to gravitate towards. This is a game for me, and I don't care about like trying to publish this or do anything with this. I'm not trying to create something for that. I'm trying to enjoy my hobby and my games, and I didn't need to spend too much time or getting frustrated, and just calling something simple like Persistent World was a good inspiration for me. So thank you very much for sharing that. Crap Phone. Love that name. The safe city needs some threats. It needs to feel like it's part of the world and not a special place. And I agree full heartedly with that. The home base, which is kind of what you do in a West Marches game, is you have a home base that you always come back to. It shouldn't be a safe place. It should still be part of the world. There should still be conflicts in the city. There should still be threats in the city. And I agree wholeheartedly. And that is when I was setting up my city, I took inspiration from this, and I'm still having conflicts in the city with maybe different guilds trying to take control of the city or get in power in the city. There's still law in the city, and the way I've designed my city, it's a very strict law that if you don't follow it, you could be sent to the mines. That's kind of like their prison, and you have to work in the mines, and that has more to do with the world creation, which is going to be a separate video. But yes, I agree full-heartedly with Crap Phone that the city needs to have threats, and it can't just be a safe space. So in my eyes, the safe city, or just the home base, just happens to be a city that you are well acquainted with. You know the rules and regulations and how to function in a city, not get in trouble or get in trouble, depending on what's going on. And that's what the city is going to be about. So great suggestion, great feedback, and that is what I added into my city for moving forward. Forahide Badass, I believe is how this is pronounced. Get over the hump to get started. I just wrote a simple note. There was more in the comment, but it has a lot more to do with how to play solo and getting over that hump and getting started, getting over the mindset of all the things that you have to do to get started. And this is going to set the tone for how my videos will most likely be presented. I have noticed over the years of doing this channel, a lot of my videos that I do talking about how I get started with a solo RPG game, just everything that I'm doing and incorporating into that game, get a lot of attention from viewers, and also, just kind of the end result. So I'm thinking my videos will be probably set up, and I'm not saying this for sure, but most likely be set up with the first video just talking about like the world or the realm that I'm going to be playing in, how I set things up, the system, the tools that I'll be using in that system, because one of the things I want to do is explore also all the different tools that I have in my collection. So I'll be talking about different tools and just everything that will be going into it. Then I'll most likely play my games off channel, just play them casually. You have to understand how I play my games. It's starting to become wintertime in Arizona right now. The weather is getting gorgeous. We're no longer in the 120-degree temperatures. My life will change come wintertime. I will have a lot more free time for me just to sit outside and enjoy playing my games because that is how I like to play. So I will probably play off camera and then come back and do a second video for my session and talk about what tools worked, what tools didn't work. That's my thought. I'll probably save some of the play for camera. Maybe there'll be something big about to take place, and I'll save that particular event for camera and then talk. So that's where my mind is going with all of this. My Kendra, West Marches can be in any setting, urban sprawl and mega dungeon. Yes, 100%. A West Marches game does not have to be just overland adventures. All a West Marches game is a collection of people doing a session in an evening, going out, doing something, and coming back. You can put a safe place or a home base in a mega dungeon where there's still some threats, but maybe the threats are lower to give your players a chance to rest and then move on. You can build those into a mega dungeon. You can do it in an urban sprawl where maybe there's a certain location within a big city that the players have fortified and they can stay in the urban sprawl and still go out and adventure a big city. So there's a lot of ways of looking at a West Marches style game. It does not always have to be overland adventures. Great feedback. Aaron Q, hex flowers to create fog of war and using VTT. So this commenter was talking about how they're doing the same thing. They're using the hex flower, which is a great little system for overland adventures, and it's published. It's good stuff. I've used it before. I like it. They are doing it on virtual tabletop, so they're using technology. I am an anti-technology person when it comes to my RPGs. I like to play with paper and pencil because I want to recreate my nostalgia from when I was playing with my friends and all that great stuff. So that is one of the things I'll be doing. But if you like VTTs and you think this is something you want to use, people are doing it, and you can easily create this in a VTT and do the same thing. Jason Connerly, use real world weather and tie it to the normal calendar. Yes, 100%. And I've already created a document for this a long time ago. I put it on my channel and shared it, and I will be doing the same thing. These are the documents I created a while back using a deck of cards and a way of tracking information and just using real world data about weather for the different regions and climates for where you want to play at. That way you're not rolling on charts and getting really weird stuff. So this is what I will be using. One of the things that's really fascinating about Arizona is down in the Tucson area, this is like harsh desert. Like weather, it gets really hot moving up through Phoenix, but then when you start going up north and you start getting up into Flagstaff and further up by the Grand Canyon, we get snow. So it's just really diverse weather, and we can go from 120 in the summer times to up in the northern country in the wintertime, getting snow and getting really cold temperatures. So I'm just going to be able to use that. I use the playing cards for, if you want to get started someplace and you don't know where you want to start, shuffle up a deck of playing cards, you draw a card, and then each card will have 7 days in it for a week, and you track time while you're playing and you're marking it off, and the weather will shift, and you have places to write down like world timelines. You can just make notes here for what's changing in the world, what's changing locally, what PCs are playing. And if I add in another game system and PCs for another region, I can still keep on the same calendar and tracking. That way, I'm not really messing up anything with where everybody's at. I'll know where they're at, I'll know where the weather's at, and I can still be playing on the same timeline, but I will be playing different games and still using the same weather information. On the back of this, I've wrote down more world event information, local events, weather events, resource events, cultural and religious events, wildlife events, and adversary events. So like your what's the big overarching problem in your world that is taking place, because things could be happening in different regions or continents or anything like that. So this is how I'm going to be tracking. This is just for taking notes. I have a transitional month. So in Arizona, December, January, and February, what we consider winter months. That's where our temperatures are the coldest. And on the transitional months, there is a week where the weather will transition. Sometimes it will be cold, sometimes it'll start getting nice. You start transitioning that weather, but also as the season transitions, the world transitions. So when we move from winter to spring, everything in the world starts changing, because coming spring is when farmers start planting, animals start breeding, and you can add that transitional activity into your world. So that's my system, and that this is the document I created, and I agree full-heartedly with what Jason Connerly stated, is just using real world weather to determine your weather, especially if you're playing someplace you are very familiar with. You don't have to put a lot of effort into deciding what the weather's like and how people and the communities change based on the weather. And you can just pull that into your fantasy world. The next comment came from the actual author of the West Marches campaign playstyle guide. And this is Carl Christofferson. And basically just letting me know they were doing a new release for the guidebook that added a lot more information, and we are going to cover that next in this video, so I'll get back to that. Serincarosa, I'm doing my best with these names, but I believe that is how it's pronounced. Using your own adventure ideas. Yes. So with this comment, the commenter was kind of talking a little bit about, using settings and things like that, but also using your own adventure ideas. And you can definitely do that. You do not have to be restricted to just overland adventures, kind of going back to my Kendra talking about how West Marches can be any setting. You can add your own setting in, you can add your own information in. I am not going to restrict myself. If there's a rule system I want to use, and let's say the setting is someplace I am not wanting to go to, like, very dry deserts or just some weird world, I'm just going to use the rules and pull information out of that setting to add it to my game. But I don't need to use that setting. I can create my own setting if I want to. All of West March's campaign is about large groups kind of intermixing and going out adventuring, and it's just not an ongoing adventure. Sometimes you're just going to go out, do something, come back to your home base, and that's going to be it. That's the basic concepts, but you could do anything you want. I'm not going to restrict myself to the rules. To me, rules are just guidelines. They're just a concept. They are not something I have to live by. I do not play rules as written. I play what I enjoy and what I want to do. And if I want to add in my own setting, I can do so. Next comment is Jeremy, 1986. Most systems have an inherent setting. And yes, that is correct. And I've kind of touched base a little bit about this, about the previous comment. I may not use the settings in most systems. I may just like the mechanics of a game and just use those mechanics and ignore the setting, or just pull certain information from the setting. That's one thing I'm going to do. I'm not going to restrict myself so much to rules as written or books as written. I'm just trying to use my collection in a game or a campaign so that I can actually enjoy my collection and not get bogged down with trying to create all these different games and do all this crazy stuff. But yes, most systems already have an inherent setting that you could just use for your West Marches game if you so desired, if it's a setting you really like. Or you can go out and buy a setting book. Thieves World is the first one that pops in my mind because it's my favorite setting, and I will probably be incorporating that into a game in the future. However, the basic concept is yes, you can use settings from other books or other games and still play a different game, a different system within that setting. Don't restrict yourself. Then went on to talk about Mist and Riven, which is a book, and talked about how you can transport yourself to another world. And I like this idea because if I create a really cool character and I'm playing here, but then I want to take this character and play someplace else, how they can be transported someplace else. I really like that, and I'll probably use the lore masters as a way of doing that because maybe the lore master's like, oh, we really need you over here. Like they're kind of controlling the world. I just like this idea, so I'll probably end up doing some sort of teleporting type system within this world so I can take characters that I've created in one game that I really kind of just like and I'm having fun with the characters themselves and be able to transport them. Great stuff. The Great Barada, I believe is how this is pronounced. Using similar games, Shadow Arc, Basic Fantasy, my goal is to use different systems in different parts of the world. So what I took from that comment was the author was saying maybe using linked games or games that are similar to play. That way you can play different characters in different systems, which makes sense. However, one of my goals is though to use all of my gaming systems in a connected world. So what I'll probably end up doing is in one, I'm just going to say region, it's a state, but it's like this region, I may just use a like systems. So if I want to start one game off using Shadow Dark and then maybe using another game like Basic Fantasy or something like that, I'll probably do that in a region. But then when I go up here to Utah, I may completely change systems and completely change everything just looking at these as regions. In my mind, in a fantasy world, most people do not go very far from home. Yes, we do see epic adventures like Conan going all over the place in a fictional world, but there's still many, many people staying within a region and still being adventurers, going out and doing things. If you look at it like a state of Arizona, I don't think many people would leave the state. Yes, you could travel and things like that, but I think most people's lives would, stay within one state, just like my life. I'm staying within one state, so that's my mindset, and that's kind of what I took from the comment. Is yes, I'll probably use similar systems in a region, but when I change to different regions and different continents and things like that, I'll probably shift. The other thought, taking this one step further, is in Wisconsin, the birthplace of Dungeons and Dragons. I may just use nothing but Dungeons and Dragons, starting with White Box, first edition, second edition, third edition, fourth edition, fifth edition, whatever edition we're on now. Just keeping everything kind of like Dungeons and Dragons only in this region. And then in Europe, I may just keep everything Warhammer Fantasy based with first, second, third, fourth edition, plus I backed or I pre-ordered the old world, and just leaving all of that and similar games in that region, such as Zweihander, which is a percentage-based system, just kind of a clone of Warhammer Fantasy, just keeping everything in that percentage-based, skill-based system in that region. So that's kind of where my mind has gone after reading this comment. Is yes, try to keep them similar, but I still want to have some variety. So using different editions or just like games in those those regions, I think will be probably the best way to go moving forward. Pickpocket Press gave me a comment. Keep the videos short. My goal is always to keep them about 30 minutes. And I agree 100% with you. I always try to keep my videos about 30 minutes. However, sometimes they go long, and it's not my goal. My intention is to follow the sitcom system where most people, sitting down watching something for 30 minutes is good. But once something starts getting longer than that, some people just kind of tune out, and I get it. That's might be why actual plays for me don't track well on YouTube, is they're just longer, and people may not necessarily have the time to invest in watching something like that. So I do want to keep my videos about 30 minutes, and that's kind of helping me shape how these videos will be presented in the public for view. Maybe a little bit of gameplay, and then more talking about how things are going, how things are working, and recapping the system. So great comments. There were a lot more comments on the video, just people encouraging me, saying that they like the idea, they think this is a good way to go. So that these were the comments that gave me something to talk about that I felt might help with a better understanding. I don't know if everybody goes and reads all the comments on a YouTube channel. That's why I wanted to bring them to the channel in a video format. I heard you. I liked a lot of what everybody had to say, and it helped me develop this better. So thank you very much for all of that. And I'm sorry if I butchered your YouTube names. I do my best. It's some of these names are just very unique. Let's move on to Wes March's The Campaign Play Style Guidebook. The author did comment on that, and I went out and picked up the newest version of it. I also picked up Trapper Keeper. Going back to nostalgia here, folks. Trapper Keepers were a thing when I was growing up. We all kind of had them for school because we didn't have computers and cell phones and all that fun stuff. We had a lot of paper that we had to keep track of for different classes. And I picked up the Stranger Things because it was probably the closest thing I could find to make me feel like I was in a fantasy world. It's just a cheap Trapper Keeper, and I love it. It's got the Velcro on it, which is fantastic. And inside, just have a little pocket, and in the very back, you have a little clipboard to keep papers attached, and then it's just a 3-ring binder. I picked up the current edition of the Wes March's Campaign Style Guidebook. Now it's broken down into 4 books. It's also available on print on demand through DriveThruRPG if you're interested. I just picked up the PDF, printed it out myself, because I don't know if this is something that will work the way it's designed for what I'm trying to accomplish. The guidebook itself, yes, this will work fine because this is just information, and I printed out I don't know how updated this one is. I have not read the updated version, but I have read the first one I picked up. So I don't know if there was any changes to this. I will reread this now that it's kind of in this format. I'll make notes and write. And that's one of the reasons why I printed it the way I did, leaving me margin going around the print so I can have a place to take notes as I'm reading. The new books that were added are as follows. You have the Game Master's World book, and this is for the Game Master to track the world. This is really just a lot of forms to fill out for your session. And because I'll be playing many different game systems over the years and doing all these different things, I'm going to just use the forms as a template. That's why for what I'm trying to do, I don't feel this is going to work, because I would have to print out multiples every time I play a different game system. So I'll just use this as a template, and then I can just take all the notes in my notebook and then transfer the lore part of it into my journal. But yeah, you just have a lot of different forms. Let me get a better angle on the camera here for keeping track of your player rosters, and you just have all these different player rosters. The home base where you can put information in, some world information. You just got these neat little forms and what you want to track. And that is what these new expansion books, I guess we'll call it, are primarily focused on, are just creating all of the different forms that you're going to want to keep track of. And then after you get through with the GM's book, which there's just it's just a lot of forms and there's some information in there as well, you have a party ledger. So now you can keep track of your party, who's playing, like here's everything that you're going to have forms for, but who they are, what their group name is, giving some information about that, and the rosters and just different things like that for the party. This would be something the party would keep and the GM would have access to because they can pull from this party roster and create story and information if they need to. Obviously, a West Marches style game is really based on responding to the players, but every once in a while the GM might have to create something to get the game started, so they may pull some of the information from this party roster, and you get more forms that kind of faded art on some of these just to add visual interest instead of it just being like a spreadsheet or kind of a blah form. And you got all kinds of different information in here, and these are just, it's just good information. It's just to help me stay organized as I'm going through all of this. And then I'm trying to find the last one. You got map pages, which is great. Now I can print these out and just keep these. This could just be like a certain section, and I can map out some cool stuff on that. The last one is the player's journal. This is something that each player in your West Marches game would want. And this is something that I would have to print one of these out for each character I'm creating, and I'm not going to do that. But I am going to use the information as a template to keep in my notebook, so that way I can keep track of each of the individual characters and things about them and refer back to them. If I create a character that starts to grow and I start teleporting them around, I may generate one of these just for the player or for the character, but the most part, this is just going to be information you're going to keep on the character themselves. They're everything that you might need to know. You can almost look at this as a character sheet, or you could put your character sheet into this, and that way you can have all your information in a really kind of cool journal, which is always fun. Their field note journals actually makes one for D&D, and you could just take this one and make it for any system you want, which is smart. I like this. Not getting caught up into just one system, just giving you information to track your character and what they're doing, and just good information. And I'll just be using this as my template moving forward for my games, so that way I can just kind of start generating that information. I like this one, my shit list. This is cool. Again, each one of these will have a little bit of information about what the chart is all about or the form is all about, but you can have grudges, which is awesome. This could help with that home base conflict. Maybe you have a grudge with someone and something happens, just walking down the street, and you bump into each other and a fight breaks out and things happen. You can have grudges with people, which is just awesome because we all know there's lots of grudges out there in the world. And travel diary, you just have really cool information. I think these additional books are fantastic, and I really think they add a lot more value to just this simple little guidebook that you can get. I think these add more value, and they weren't terribly expensive as PDFs. And if you just pick up the PDF, you can print them out. Now it's the West Marches playstyle kit or something like that. I'll put a link in the description to the Drive Through RPG page. But for me and what I'm trying to create, I do not feel the way this is set up is going to work because I would have to have multiples of these, but I can use the templates and just use it as a way of gathering information from a subject matter expert and putting it into my journals and just keeping track of everything. And then I can just refer back to my journals for each one of these, and I think it'll work out just fine. So that is the West Marches play kit in my cool little Trapper Keeper. I will probably be removing it from the Trapper Keeper. I just kind of wanted to show off my new Trapper Keeper. I'll probably be removing them from the Trapper Keeper, putting them into like a standard 3-ring notebook, and then everything will start. Everything I'll be keeping in this will be more focused on like character sheets and where I'm at and what I'm doing, things of that nature. So very cool stuff. I have decided my first session or my first game moving forward will be Shadow Dark. The main reason I want to use Shadow Dark is I did a video a while back about playing Shadow Dark solo and kind of how I wasn't impressed with the pamphlet that was put out for playing solo and felt that you needed a little bit more in order to play Shadow Dark solo. I came up with this concept of having a canine as a companion, and I put a lot of effort into that video, but I never had a chance to fully realize it by playing it. Yes, I did little sample plays and tested it out, and everything in theory seems like it will work. However, I want to really test it now, and someone made a comment recently asking if I'd played it, and just because of when I play, summertime I don't play a whole lot. I am busy trying to recover from the heat, plus doing yard work, and my life just gets a little bit more complicated in the summertime. But now that winter is coming, I want to put that theory to the test. I do need to spend some time with Shadow Dark to refamiliarize myself with the rules, go back and look at all my notes and some of the sessions that I've had with this system, so that way I can get back up to speed with it. But I do think Shadow Dark will work, especially with all the charts. It is an OSR-ish style game, but I think it will work just fine for what I want to accomplish. It is a brutal game, so that's where I'll start. I will be incorporating my companion rules and putting them through the test. And that's really one of my other joys with gaming, is coming up with how I would play this game solo, testing all that out and seeing what happens, and then moving on from there. So that's what my videos will look like. I'm rambling, so I'm going to call it quits. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great day. Bye.